Alright, so here's a quick rundown of my blue-black Lantern control deck. Um, Basically, this deck is a prison-style deck. It's very grindy and has a lot of internal synergies that kind of lead to its eventual victory. It has some really bad matchups, especially highly aggressive creature decks, um, and excessively controlling control decks like blue-white control. It has a little bit of trouble with if it's unable to resolve some of its key spells. But for the most part, most of its matchups are really good. So we're going to try and keep this video as short as possible, and we're just going to get right into it. I'll give the explanations of the cards that are part of the main deck as I go over them. So, starting off, you have part of the core components, Ensnaring Bridge, Ghoul Caller's Bell, then you have Codex Shredder, and Lantern of Insight. These are part of the lock. The idea of the deck is to make sure that your opponents can't attack you, and through the discard package you get rid of things that you can't take care of in the early turns, and then control the draws of both players with Lantern, Codex, and Ghoul Caller's Bell to make sure that whatever you couldn't handle with these, you handle by controlling their draws. In my version of the deck, we're running Trinket Mage, which allows you to go get a whole bunch of different tutor targets. So, continuing on with the core of the deck, we have 3 Trinket Mage, allowing you to search the deck for converted mana cost 1 or less artifacts. A Singleton Infernal Tutor, which is pretty standard for this style of deck. 2 and 3 and 4 copies are always way too much. I had cut it all the way down to 2, but I was still running into problems with drawing 2 of them, which is it's just my luck, I guess. Then we have a couple of Spell Skites here. The Spell Skites are just kind of in there to help protect the lock pieces. They're also good at absorbing damage from burn spells, and burns creatures. And then, let's move on to the discard package. It's going to be 4 Inquisition of Kozilek, 2 Thoughtseas, and a Raven's Crime. Inquisition, as a 4 of, might seem excessive, but all the things that matter to this deck are inside of that CMC, so that's actually probably the most powerful spell in this deck. Just making sure that it can survive the early turns before the lock is actually in place. Thoughtseize is only a 2 of because we're also running lands that hurt us, and we're running a Taxing Probe, so we have to be careful with our life total, especially against burn. And the Raven's Crime is in there because we do actually mill ourselves quite a bit, and it's nice to flip something over that's actually useful. So we have a Singleton Raven's Crime, thanks to a suggestion from a user on the, Tapped Out, Tapped Out forums, or I don't even know what you call it, tappedout.com. So let's take a look at the mana base. We have a Singleton Mountain, that's for activating some things in the late game. A couple of islands, just to make sure that we can pay for the Probe, the Trinket Mage, and the Spellskite without hurting ourselves too much. Some swamps, some underground rivers, a couple of 4 Darkslick Shores, 1 Academy Ruins for the eventual end game, which is a Pyrite Spellbomb kill once we have the opponent locked out. Darksteel Citadel as another tutor target for the Trinket Mage. And then some Ghost Quarters, just to make our opponent really think about whether or not they want to shuffle. Also, because Tron's a thing, and you have to stop Tron somehow. So, that's the main deck. And then, over here, also, pieces of the main deck are the tutor targets for the Trinket Mage. Starting up at the top, we have a Singleton Mox Opal, an Executioner's Capsule, Aether Spellbomb, Welding Jar, Nile Spellbomb, Expedition Map, Pithing Needle, Lens of Clarity, and Pyrite Spellbomb. Real quick, run over what each of these is in there for. The Mox Opal's in there is to make sure that the activation costs of the important artifacts is able to be activated. Also helps you to ramp. Don't want to run too many of them because it's a legendary artifact, so you just, in my case, with all of the Trinket Mages, we're just running 1. Executioner's Capsule is a searchable way to destroy creatures. Aether Spellbomb is a searchable way to bounce the Trinket Mage and keep having it fire off. Also to bounce problem creatures that are keeping you from winning, or whatever they might be doing. It's nice to have answers. Welding Jar is a searchable way to protect the Ensnaring Bridge and any of your important artifacts. The Nile Spellbomb is probably not supposed to be in the main, but it leads to an interesting situation where you're able to, every turn, recur it with the Academy Ruins, exile your opponent's graveyard, draw it, and draw a card. So you actually can continue moving through your deck while proactively controlling your opponent's draws and their access to their graveyard. The Expedition map is specifically in there as a tutor target for the Trinket Mage so that you can search up either removal, land destruction, or you can search up the Academy Ruins. Then we also have the Pithing Needle. I guess with 3 Trinket Mages, you kind of have 4 copies of Pithing Needle. Pithing Needle is really great with the discard spells and the Gitaxian Probes. You're able to stop your opponent proactively from activating things like fetched lands and activated abilities of important creatures. Then also we have Lens of Clarity, which is kind of like a one-sided lantern. It only affects you and works really well as far as controlling your draws during the opening turns. If you could run 5 copies of Lantern, you would run 5 copies of Lantern, but there's your 5th copy. And then the endgame card, Pyrite Spellbomb, which is the actual way you kill by locking your opponent out and then recurring Pyrite Spellbomb with Academy Ruins. So, real quick, let's go over the sideboard. I'm trying to keep this under 8 minutes, hopefully. Sorry, this deck's kind of complicated. It takes a lot of explanation. So, in the sideboard, we have 4 Sun Droplets and a Sunbeam Spellbomb. These are in here for the burn matchup or hyper-aggressive creature decks. This deck has a really hard time dealing with very fast, aggressive creature decks, so those are required. Then we have a few more Graveyard Hate tutor targets, Grafdigger's Cage, Relic, and Tormod's Crypt. Just more ways to kind of deal with people who are trying to abuse things that not a lot of modern decks are trying to abuse right now. Also, in conjunction with Trinket Mage, each of these things has its own individual decks that it's super powerful against. Then we have Gremlin Mine, which is really good against Affinity. Allows you to take out even their most powerful creature when it has a cranial plating on it. Then we also have a Singleton Phyrexian Revoker, Welding Jar as another way to protect the important artifacts, a couple of Squelch just to make sure to shore up our matchup against heavy Planeswalker decks, and Splinter Twin, and then a couple more pieces of removal to supplement the Executioner's Capsule against those heavily aggressive creature decks and things like Stompy. So that's it. That's the deck. It was recently played at a high-exposure modern tournament by Ali Einstrazi, and after seeing another person pilot this effectively, it got me interested in putting it back together and testing it. So if you have any questions about the deck, or if you want to show off your list, be sure to post in the comments section. Cool. Peace.